Pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Very excited.
Yay.
How would you like us to kick it off?
I was gonna just wait for a few minutes for folks to roll in, but I'm curious about I guess before we officially get started, I'm curious about what are each one of your role at the movement so that I can have a bit of a context.
I guess I can make a official title for myself, Growth Wizard, maybe. I don't. Yeah, I'm just helping with growth. So I've been here in the movement community since very early days.
Oh, awesome.
On my end, I'm not quite sure yet which wizard category I would fall into, but I definitely tend to help a lot with writing and marketing, particularly newsletter, and we're gonna have a podcast coming up, so things like that.
Yeah, and
Nice.
I'm here for community growth, outreach, onboarding, and dabble in all the DAO stuff, governance, product design, vision. We're here to build it out and make it happen.
Yeah, I think as an early stage DAO, we're definitely all kind of wearing a lot of different hats, as I'm sure it is in other places as well.
Yeah, I totally feel you. That's how you get it done.
And fun fact, CityDAO was actually one of the first DAOs last year that I started checking out after
Oh,
sabbatical from crypto.
oh, that's great. I'm so happy to hear that. What do you think of CityDAO?
I thought it was a really cool idea, being kind of pioneering the way for DAOs to own land and govern the land. I mean, it'll be interesting how things evolve and hopefully security regulations and things like that kind of get better over the years, so that we can have more direct ownership type models.
Yeah. I'm very excited about CityDAO for the exact same reason. And I realize how people underestimate how much legal constraint there is to own land and govern land and operate on land. And the fact that CityDAO is kind of pioneering in that space and then using the DAO legal structure to solve these problems, for me it's super exciting. So yeah, very, very looking forward to what's coming next. I think we can just get started. I have like a bunch of stuff I want to go over with you guys, but I guess first of all, yeah, thank you all for being here. If you can give us a bit of an intro of what MovementDAO is and what does it do, that would be great. Any of you?
Maiko, or you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So MovementDAO is building a platform to build more sustainable, continuously funded movements, aka DAOs. So we're really looking to figure out ways that we can create new Web3 business models and interesting tokenomics and really like make more scalable, bigger impacts for projects either in the Web 2 space today or already in the Web 3 space, and help enable them through our platform. And ultimately, one of the biggest components of what we've done is we've created this global endowment concept where we've basically have a model that we aggregate all this capital from all these different from our protocol revenue and from our treasury and from all the other movements created, and it's put into this single DeFi treasury endowment that produces yield and ultimately enables continuous funding for a lot of these movements, which could be nonprofits, for example, that could benefit from getting continuous payments so that they can keep their operations going without having to continuously try to get donor funding.
I think it's so super exciting because yeah, I feel like with I did a bit of a dive on your website, and everything that you just mentioned makes perfect sense in terms of funding social movements, because you don't really need to or want to fund movements that has to generate income, right? So like using these kind of DeFi protocol, I think it's a great way to kind of help facilitate continued growth for these movements. So yeah, super exciting. Does anyone has anything else to add?
Sure. I'll just add that the Move platform is going to be like a turnkey way for social environmental impact movements to be able to organize as a DAO, which has a lot of benefits, as I'm sure a lot of us are aware since we're already here in the DAO space. But a part of our mission is to bring the power of DAO coordination out to all of the artists and activists and dreamers and everyone out there, who wants to create a beautiful world to live in, because it's an incredibly powerful tool and it matters like who is utilizing that tool. So we just want to create like the easiest way for, both Web3 native, but also non-tech oriented communities to be able to tokenize their movements and distribute democratic governance over a shared treasury in a permissionless fashion. And we think that's something that a lot of social movements out there can benefit from, by decentralizing treasury governance, and then creating a borderless system for coordination that cannot be censored.
And just like an example of where we're seeing a lot of potential use in this is everyone's starting to kind of play with NFTs as a funding mechanism and tokens. I was just talking today to someone who is working with some bigger universities to try to have them be able to use NFTs as a funding mechanism and kind of monetize the creativity happening within their university with their students, so that their students can monetize their artwork, for example, and both go to funding the student, but also the university, as a distribution channel for that. And there's all these types of different projects that are doing these kind of one-off implementations. And so, I think part of the goal is to be able to have a platform where you can easily make those types of implement those types of use cases and do it in a more scalable, easy, no code way. But then also like actually be able to sustain that over time with mechanisms for tokenomics and through an endowment that provides continuous funding, so that they aren't just these like, hey, let's go raise some money with NFTs and then go spend it and then that's it.
Excellent point. I just want to jump in too and say, part of this is the I think this overarching concept that maybe we're very familiar with in DAOs about what it means to bring value to a community or to a project. And right now, in the IRL space, a lot of these nonprofits bring tremendous value, and yet by their nature, they're not trying to generate income or money, right? And so there's almost this dichotomy of these people doing great things, and yet they don't have like a well to go to where they can get supported in their endeavors. I think MovementDAO kind of fits in this niche where it's exactly those movements that we care about, the ones that are bringing value into the world and that aren't fitting kind of into a capitalist model of trying to generate income. So the endowment platform, I think, checks a lot of those boxes.
Wow, this is so super amazing. I'm so glad to hear that you guys are doing this kind of work. And yeah, I think the concept of a social movement, it's a very embracing term terminology in the DAO space, because I think a lot of DAOs are trying to create some sort of social movement. They're just not really, using that term yet. For example, CityDAO, inside CityDAO, there's a lot of folks who are very driven by the idea of a network state. I don't know if you are familiar with the idea of a network state, termed by Balaji. It's basically an idea of a decentralized movement of a globally connected network of people with shared value, but not necessarily having to be belonging or living in the same kind of nation state. But so it's taken the idea of a nation state with where you can like achieve maximum consensus, but distribute it across a global network. And that itself, it's something that CityDAO and a bunch of all these other DAOs are super excited about. And then that's what got me excited. That's what a lot of our kind of core team at the CityDAO in the CityDAO team are very excited about. And it's really interesting to see your strategy in terms of promoting these kind of social movements, and as you're coming from like that perspective of guaranteed funding almost, and then giving like regenerative kind of a regenerative finance model to these new grassroots organizations and movements. So yes, one thing that I'm very curious about is what are some of the movements that you've successfully funded, and yeah, how are they operating right now?
So right now we're still in a very beta state. We don't have our platform live yet. We have a lot of the tools, because essentially we are using a lot of open source tools. One of them is Juicebox, of which we're creating the V2 of as part of our platform. And so we've kind of so far have been curating these communities, these movers, these people who are really wanting to go make some change, and helping them to if they're still at a state where they don't really know how to interact with this stuff, it's like helping them to kind of figure out what a Web3 model could look like. And then on the other side, it's putting together some tests using a little bit of some hacks to put stuff together. So because we don't have a full platform yet, so one of the things that we've created is called MovementDAO, and that is focused on efforts in Ukraine, humanitarian aid, and so far have raised about I think 75,000 from Juicebox raise. Using that platform, basically we are able to people can contribute in ETH or DAI, and they get peace tokens and peace NFTs as rewards for their contribution, which then they can use as governance to direct the funds. So it's almost kind of like a hive mind of getting the kind of the people on the ground, the people who are experts, all into one room that have the decision power to make the right decisions around where that funding should be prioritized. Definitely an experiment, but so far I'd say a pretty successful one. We have people that are on the ground that have these grassroots movements, these grassroots communities that funding traditionally hasn't really gotten to by these larger organizations, these larger NGOs. And so the result is that it's much more highly effective, efficient, kind of money impact per dollar. And we've had people like Representative Sparts, Victoria Sparts from Indiana, and Ryan Breslow, the founder of Bolt, was a $14 billion company. He's kind of spearheading MovementDAO, and we've had lots of other major contributors who help UA now, help Ukraine now is another organization, and kind of getting all these cool organizations and people who are experts into the room to contribute in a decentralized way to direct funds, and also are incentivized to help build that community and build the funds that we're growing there, which ultimately will try to turn into a movement once the platform goes live to create a more sustainable regenerative type of organization entity.
Yeah,
I can say our newsletter did come out this morning, and so I put it into the town square text chat for anybody who wants more info. But that newsletter will go into more detail on PeaceDAO and also the community gardens project that Selena's doing, which is phenomenal. I don't know if we want to mention that in more detail, but that's a really exciting one. So that's in the lounge text chat.
Yeah, community farms is awesome. I wanted to comment on how inspiring it has been to see PeaceDAO thriving as a DAO model for a donor-advised fund. It's really incredible to have this opportunity to contribute to something and then be able to actually have a say in how those funds are distributed. PeaceDAO meets 3 days a week, and we have in those meetings the folks on the ground who are distributing those funds and using those funds to buy vans to transport civilians away from conflict zones and to buy fuel. To just hear like firsthand where that money's going and like exactly how it's helping and kind of replacing the bureaucratic structure of certifications and with instead more of a distributed model of democratic voting and grassroots allocation of funds. So like that's been awesome, and I think that's going to be a really great model for donor advised funds in the future. It's been really cool. And then the community farms thing that Felixander was mentioning is another movement that we're incubating. If you go into the movement Discord server, you can see a whole group of channels that are movements in action, which are basically incubating ideas. And once the Move platform is live, they will have enough social momentum and enough of a team to launch their project. We have a movement ideas channel, which is really cool, and a lot of people are sharing some very interesting ideas about dance party DAOs and just all kinds of fun stuff, alleviating houselessness. And if you have any ideas, feel free to jump in the server and share your idea, and you just might get some people behind it and like get things moving, and also check out other people's ideas. It's pretty inspiring.
Super awesome to hear that, within a short amount of time that you guys were already be able to create like a very sounds like it's a very solid movement, with the ability to have people on the ground actually, doing the stuff with the fundings that you're able to provide them. So that is super, super exciting to hear. And I definitely want to see more and more social movements either happening at MovementDAO or happening in CityDAO, because I think, a lot of people are here and are in these Discord servers. And then, at least from the CityDAO perspective, a lot of people are here working with CityDAO, without guaranteed, without knowing that, without intention of working for CityDAO just to be paid, but they are working for CityDAO because they believe in the mission and they believe in this vision of decentralized communities and decentralized cities. And I think a lot of that ideology can kind of read into the idea of a more grassroots community. Because like if you think about building a decentralized cities, what does decentralized cities really mean without like a central core of community, without like a culture that's different from our current quote unquote centralized cities and systems. So yeah, I think in terms of these ideologies, there's a lot of hybrid in between our organizations. I do have some questions about just the way movement is operating as a DAO, because so if you go into movement's website, you will see that they will say they've already raised almost like 5,900 ETH, which is equivalent to like 16 million USD, and you guys have a yearly budget of $2.5 million planning to be spent. So that's like a really, really sizable treasury. How are your what is your plan on spending these treasury? Because you mentioned as you're funding these movements, you're actually helping them to crowdfund. So like aside from helping, I guess, like aside from your day-to-day operations, how are you planning to spend these treasuries? What are some of the areas you're looking into?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We've been fortunate to have some really benevolent donors within that raise, and it's definitely, in the spirit of DAO, we're trying to really build a treasury management framework right now. Getting some really good minds from some other DAOs who have successfully managed large treasuries to put together something for us, and then also working just in our broader community to come up with all of the governance related, treasury related standards, processes to go make sure that we can operate a not only from our own operations, but operate an endowment that is going to be sustainable, isn't going to just run out of money, isn't going to have a lot of risk to it. Because if we have a funding goal of let's just say, for example, that we want to fund, I'll just say X amount of dollars per movement in our network per year, or let's just say it's $1 million a year that we want to, or 10% of our treasury, or whatever it is that we want to be able to give back to our movements. We got to make sure that we aren't at enough risk where our treasury could go down 50% in a market drawdown. So those are all things that we're kind of working on being able to implement and do it in a decentralized way.
Right. Okay. That sounds very exciting, because I think with this amount of budget, you'll be able to fund like many kind of from small to mid to big scale of social movements with many different visions. So I think with this, you'll be able to enable a lot of people with just like a new and fresh ideas, and you'll be able to help them curate an environment um where these ideas can be nurtured and grow. um, so just want to take this opportunity to let our audience know, if you have any questions, feel free to just raise your hand, and I will be more than happy to invite you up to stage. If you have any questions really regarding the social movement, if you have any social movement that you'd be interested to see, or if you have any other detailed question for these guys, just raise your hand and I'll invite you to stay. Um, And in the meantime, I'm also curious about like what are some of, because social movement, I think in general it's still a very broad, it could be from, I don't know, like selling pickles to flipping real estate in a different way. Like it could mean so many different things, right? So what are some I like we've been briefed that you guys um really are focusing on a lot of grassroots movement. You guys are helping with the Ukraine war. And what are some, if you can give us a general like category of the areas of focus that you would like to fund social movements in, what would those be?
I think I can speak for all of us that selling pickles is a big one. But that's our back pocket social movement. So when we grow a little bigger, we'll work on
Of
the
course,
pickle selling.
of course.
I guess it would be nice, Stack, maybe like the community farms. Like I feel like that's so right up the alley of what movement wants to be doing. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more of that and what Selena's up to. I mean, it's really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think just overall, anything that has positive impact on the world. I mean, it's ultimately going to be up to the community to decide what those specific projects are, and where that kind of takes us. But everything environmental, social, any type of public good. I mean, really, there's no limit to like what our platform could host. But in terms of the community layer to that, I think we're really trying to curate a strong community that's passionate about making an impact.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I think in broader, Michael, do you want to add something to it?
No, I was just gonna say, like, are you making the world better? Let's do it. That's all it takes, really. And it's all about incentive alignment. So we're just trying to put the right kinds of incentive alignment tools into the hands of people who want to make the world better. And I think that's a powerful tool, and we're going to create beautiful things that way.
It's really amazing to hear. I'm so glad to hear that you guys have this kind of your value statement being kind of the at the top of the pyramid on how you operate. So like everything you do kind of evolves around this this mission and this value that you're driving, which I think is super awesome. Um, I hope that that there is space for CityDAO to be more involved with folks like you guys. We've recently just announced, finalized our partnership with Nemas, which is a project that's also distributing land on the blockchain. But what they're doing is that they're buying pieces of land in the Amazon, where they aim to form a protective layer against forest deforestation that's happening in the Amazon. And they have a very similar kind of not exactly the same, but a very similar strategy as CityDAO in terms of their land purchase and how do they distribute land on chain. And then I think, for example, Nemas is a really great use case using these kind of using blockchain technology to create some sort of social good, and then engaging a broader stroke of internet strangers to be able to come to their program and then kind of just get involved and invest if you don't have time to be involved in the project, but invest into the project directly with the form of NFT and land ownership, which I think is super awesome. And I think that's also close to what a direction that CityDAO is heading towards as well. As we started in less than a year ago, it took us a long time to get where we are. It took us a long time to figure out the right kind of legal structure to distribute land on chain. And then after learning all these things, we do want to enable more and more different and diverse projects that are doing innovative things like this. um so I'm curious, you don't have to give me a like an answer yet, but would like if movement can consider like the building of a decentralized city as a social movement, how would you see like CityDAO fit into this whole world of like decentralized cities movement? If you have an I don't know any suggestions or answer to this, I would be very happy to hear that.
I have a thought on that subject. I mean, like, CityDAO as a decentralized city state is going to be broad and inclusive of like many subcultures and projects that are happening on CityDAO parcels, for example. So like if somebody wants to create like regenerative wildlife corridors across CityDAO parcels, or let's say somebody wants to cultivate community gardens throughout different cities, like movement can be the Move platform can be a great way to raise funds and issue governance over that project and coordinate action. Something like that. It'd be like a layered um, sort of collaboration in a way.
Yeah, that's really awesome. When I heard about the like the community garden project, I feel like that has a lot of space into like in that has a lot of similarities to like this decentralized city, decentralized community, and idea we've been pushing. And yeah, the fact that like most centralized places and centralized cities don't have that. Like if you live in a city, you have to go to grocery and then get really expensive produce, and then they might not even be, they might have like some sort of like pesticide and stuff on them, and it's just really not humane in a lot of ways. So yeah, um,
Yeah,
did you
come
wanna?
talk to
Mhm.
Selena. She's leading the community farms movement, and there's a channel in the Discord server. We have some meetings every once in a while on the topic. So I think that would be super cool collaboration. I'll post a link to that channel in the town hall chat.
Yeah, please do. We yes, yes. Did you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say that I think there's gonna be tons of opportunities for potential partnership and a lot of different areas, especially as CityDAO. And I haven't been following recently as much, but I know that there was discussions back in November around what do we do with the land and um, conservation type stuff, or is it building maybe some type of green uh, solar panels or something like that on the land. And I think all those other types of projects that we could collaborate on in terms of having movements maybe that use the land or that help to fund land conservation or acquisition of land. All those different types of things I think are within the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because that's exactly what we were planning to do with Parcel Zero. So Parcel Zero will be dedicated to land restoration, and we are actually planning a launch of Parcel Zero token very, very soon. This is not an official announcement because we don't know the date yet, but it's gonna be within the next few weeks. And yeah,
A
it's gonna
little
be
official. It does sound a little official, if I can just jump in.
just a little bit official. Not in writing yet, but it is coming. And yeah, and it's gonna be open to all citizens, and then we're gonna use that to create a Parcel Zero DAO, which will be used to govern operations that can be done for the land. But we do want to say that that piece of land is solely dedicated to soil to like nature restoration. We're not actually gonna destroy the nature and build a city there, but we're gonna plan to build a city somewhere else. um, I see, Zeno, you have a question, so I'm gonna invite you to stage. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I was just curious if you could explain a bit of the actual mechanics. Like, let's say hypothetically, someone wants to create a DAO to research and protect against existential risk, and the movement DAO decides to send some funds. What does that actually look like?
Are you familiar with the Juicebox at all?
A little bit.
So that I think is going to be like it is going to be a major primitive of the platform. So essentially, if you use Juicebox today, you can fundraise for your project and distribute tokens based off of various people that you want to distribute it to, including the treasury or contributors. And it acts as a way to like other DAOs like Assange DAO that raised I think like 50 million, and some other bigger ones have raised on Juicebox to fund their treasury and their contributors. And what a lot of people don't realize about Juicebox as well is that you can kind of manage your treasury and manage your funding cycles through that. But that's sort of what like you can actually create a DAO through Juicebox. At least the part of it's part of the tooling anyway. Did that sort of answer the question? Sorry if I missed the mark a little.
No, I think that makes sense. I guess I was just curious as to what like who's deciding that? Like, is it the collection of people in Movement DAO? Is it like a subgroup in Movement DAO? Like, how is the selection process actually implemented?
Oh, do you mean in terms of like who gets to be a movement and get access to like our endowment that sends continuous funding?
Yes.
Got it. Yeah, that's something that we're still working on, but some thoughts are that they would have to meet some minimum threshold of funding on the platform to like kind of reduce spam and make sure that it's something worthy of being funded. So, which would mean it would have to have some amount of community support, and then maybe there is also uh, some kind of threshold or approval that goes through governance to approve those movements and whatever that that payout ultimately ends up being. Because I don't think we've talked about having pro rata, meaning like if there's 100 movements, each one gets kind of the same amount, but maybe it makes more sense to prioritize more funding for certain movements. So that's something that it's a complex thing that we're trying to solve for in our governance process.
I think just to jump in, there's also a level that, and this is, we're still discussing this internally, but there's movement, there's a lot of great different social causes out there, but then you have some social causes that are like directly, I mean, sometimes directly life-saving. And so, where does that fit in? I mean, if it's something that's providing a tremendous need, sustaining or helping to sustain human life, that's obviously going to be in a different priority structure, I think it's fair to say, than movements that are a little bit more maybe icing on the cake, so to speak. So that's also something I think we're kicking around internally to find an equitable funding structure that doesn't neglect any of those causes, but still acknowledges that there's different levels of impact you can have on the world.
Yeah, I think that eventually we can implement a democratic kind of governance model through the Move token for those kinds of decisions over time. And also just to add another element of the functionality to add a little bit of clarity is like, it's not just that movement, like that we have this endowment fund that we're going to be dishing out to movements on the platform, but rather that like it's a fundraising platform, and when a movement raises funds, they can allocate a portion of those funds to the endowment. So like the long-term intention, like we've kind of primed the pot with some initial funding in the endowment, but the long-term intention is that like all movements on the platform will aggregate their funding so that everyone can benefit from DeFi yield together, and then that yield is distributed proportionate to the contributions to the fund. If that makes sense, if that kind of clarifies that.
Yeah, that does. It sounds awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, Zeno, thank you for the question. And yeah, anyone else, if you have any questions, please just raise your hand. I'm gonna invite Zeno back to audience if you are good. Um, so yeah, I think it's great that you mentioned the movement token. So that's another question that I was gonna get into. So I saw that on the website, you guys are the move token is under pre-sale right now. Is it like, do you have any roadmaps on when is the token gonna officially launch? And then what is the plan? And what is the plan with the move token? Is it for more another round of crowdfunding, or what's the purpose? Is this how people can get involved with movement without spending too much time reading or like being involved in the community? So yeah, let us know.
Yeah, so the Move token will be serve a couple different purposes. One, it's a governance token, and also it's a way to give liquidity to all the other sub DAOs or movements on the platform, because the endowment, subset of the endowment will essentially provide liquidity for those different movements. And the pre-sale, I guess the token launch is sort of earmarked for beginning of Q3, end of Q2. There's a few development questions that we kind of are working through in terms of some things on Juicebox's end, for example. So we're trying to figure out, like, I don't think we want to pick a exact launch date, because those are often missed anyway in a lot of these projects. So yeah, we're looking at probably end of Q2, and then we would essentially calculate the bonding curve based on all the contributions, and then distribute the airdrop of Move via like a Merkle airdrop. at that
It's
point.
exciting. Awesome.
At the interim stage, we're using these enlightened ape NFTs as our interim governance token, which is pretty fun. And folks who want to come get involved in movement can actually earn those NFTs, and it's pretty awesome. So if you join the server and you check out the giveaways channel, it'll tell you exactly how you can earn some MAPEs, and then those actually count for voting rights in our interim governance model at the moment.
That's actually a really awesome model. We were discussing this with the CityDAO team as well in terms of how do we, how do we kind of get more people to be our get more contributors to become token holders instead of just get token holders to be token holders. So instead of people with money that can buy a lot of your token to influence on your decision, I think like a more long-term, like durable model, more resilient model for DAOs would be to actually distribute the token to people that contribute to your DAO, because it's easier to find more or like stronger incentive alignment within the people that already are working for you. You reward them with your governance token in order to help you make quote unquote better decisions for the DAO. So yeah, really awesome that you guys are doing that, and I think that's what CityDAO is doing as well, because we are looking to give more and more governance token to people that contribute on the CityDAO mission as well. So yeah, that's really great to hear. Um, I I remember I had another question, but I really can't remember what it is right now. I'm sure it will come up later. I hope it comes up, but I think I've covered most of the questions I've had for you guys. Is there any questions we have in the audience, or is there any question you guys might have for CityDAO?
I guess my main question would be, how do we continue to have these conversations around how we can work together on some of these projects around impact? Is there, I mean, obviously we'll stay in the Discord here. Is there any channels or anything, any project ongoing in CityDAO right now that we should focus our attention on?
That's a great question. I'm so glad that you want to continue engage with us. So a bit of a current update about CityDAO. What we're working on really hard right now is about it's on the land token drop for Parcel Zero, so that will come in a few weeks, and we're gonna do an official announcement in a week or so. But after that, we have very much like a lot of open collaboration with different DAOs. We're gonna have a partnership with ArchiDAO, which is a DAO made by a bunch of architecture people, and they are building kind of like they're teaching people how to build their own metaverses. So we're gonna collaborate with them to launch like CityDAO courses. We have an education guild within CityDAO. They do weekly readings on like DAO governance, and then readings on software governance in general, and then they have roundtables. We also have a grants and projects guild that give out grants and to projects that CityDAO would find as interesting. So and the most exciting part is we have just started to collect ideas on our next parcel one, and we've been collecting, I think, like 20-30 ideas from DAO members and people who are interested into this decentralized cities movement. Um, what I would really like to see for us to collaborate is more on the idea of a decentralized city movement. Um, I like I mentioned, there's a lot of people in CityDAO that's very interested in the idea of the network state movement, and there's also people proposing like CityDAO being able to become this service level community that enables more communities to happen. So like what CityDAO has what part of our strength is that we have a very diverse global community, and we have a very strong legal guild, and with a bunch of really like talented and avant-garde thinking, or like forward thinking lawyers on our team who are here to work on initiatives that kind of can make um, operations and projects more permissionless while still being feasible and executable within the current legal structure. So that part, I think these are kind of the strength of CityDAO. But I think the CityDAO could use more help of is to collaborate with people like Movement, where you guys have a very clearly defined mission, and you guys are very open to like have a very open-ended kind of model of collaboration. And I think if we can keep having these kind of conversations, I think it would be great to kind of work together in to push this movement of decentralized communities, of more grassroots communities, grassroots cities. And not only we offer them a feasible and sustainable way of funding, but if we can also offer them like a quote unquote business model on kickstart your own community, your own civilization, your own society kind of thing, with the experience that CityDAO has gained from learning to distribute land on chain, I think that would be a very exciting way to partner. And yeah, and I personally just really want to see more and more diverse and interesting communities kind of sprung out from all corners of the world. So yeah, that thought itself get me to feel like really excited about this partnership. And I think that's all I had to cover. I still haven't remembered the question I had for you guys, but I would definitely hit you up if the question came up. Um, yeah. So, is there any last comments from you guys? Any last thoughts?
I just want to say thank you. Oh, sorry, Stacker, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that I just love everything that you just said, and maybe we can get a little shared kind of Google Doc going or something like that to write down some ideas. And then I see you guys also have a podcast, and we're about to start one as well. So maybe we can have each other on and keep the conversation going there too.
Yeah, just the same thing. Piggybacking on that, thank you for the questions, the opportunity. It's been really nice to get to know a little more, and to poke around in the Discord and learn about CityDAO. And yeah, totally for the podcast, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. You've been a great host, and thanks for forging bonds between communities.
Guys, thank you guys for being here. And yeah, would love to keep the conversation going. And in terms of Google Doc, we already have, I personally have so many things that I can collect and put together into kind of these ideologies, and also so many sub communities. So yeah, would love to keep the conversation going about this movement of decentralized communities. And yeah, thank you guys for making an appearance here. I hope we'll get to do one of these sessions again in maybe a few months after we both grow a bit, and check in to see where we're at and see if there's new ways to collaborate. And thank you for all the audience to tune in. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. And yeah, if you're interested, definitely hop into the movement Discord, and then check in what they're up to as well. Yeah, so I'm gonna just end the session here, and hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.